let's just be honest from a USC perspective here. You know, we all know that stuff happens behind the scenes. We all know that coaches give a little nudge to players, tell them to recruit other players in the transfer portal and whatnot. So Lincoln Riley didn't start this, okay? Like, he didn't create this problem. This is a loophole created by the NCAA, which had several years since the O'Bannon case and all that litigation got rolling. You know, the NCAA could have been proactive in formulating an actual serious plan to deal with all of this. Like, this was going to come in one form or another. The NCAA decided to kick the can down the road. It basically punted responsibility for, you know, building a real, genuine architecture to head these problems off at the pass. No one at USC is saying or implying that this situation is okay or good. You know, this wild, wild west that we're seeing with NIL, or frankly, this is really pay to play more than it is NIL. But like, no one's saying the situation is good. What USC people are saying, and they're right, is that the NCAA should have done something about this. You don't blame a school or a coach that exploits a loophole in the rules. You blame the organization which is supposed to set up the rules, failed to do so. That's where the blame should be going, not to Lincoln Riley or USC. Now, on the tampering question, you know, let's say that Lincoln Riley said, hey, Caleb Williams, you know, we really could use your buddy Jordan Addison. All right, like, but we know that always happens at SEC schools throughout the country. So you can't prove, right, that a coach is telling a player behind the scenes to recruit. So what, you know, we should, if this is viewed as a serious problem, we should prevent players from being able to recruit other players. At least, you know, you can't do it in every medium. Like, how do you police the use of like a burner phone or something? Like, you can't even police that, but you could say at least no Twitter, no Instagram, no Facebook, no Snapchat. You can't use any of these social media channels to communicate with other players. At least do that, something to either, if not close the loophole, at least reduce the size of the loophole. But no one's talking about that. The people at Pittsburgh, they're not talking about these things. They're saying Lincoln Riley is the great Satan. He's the devil. He's the author of all that's bad in college football, and the sport as we know it is ending. All this apocalyptic rhetoric, it's not helpful because it doesn't go to the root of the problem. And USC didn't start this. USC doesn't embody this more than any other program. All the big hitting programs have been involved in this kind of episode one way or another. If we're serious about root causes, we're certainly not looking at Lincoln Riley and USC.
And it also adds to the arsenal of the non-USC, non-Pitt football fan, college football fan, who wants to paint Lincoln Riley as a villain coming off of the Oklahoma departure and how that was handled or not handled by him. And he certainly cited some regrets since then. So this just can fall in line with the Lincoln Riley persona as perceived by the average college football fan out there.
Yeah, and Lincoln Riley is a lightning rod. We get it, we understand it, and the fact that he left Oklahoma for USC caused such a sensation in the college football world. But let's bring up a key point, and this went under the radar nationally, but we at Trojans Wire covered this. A USC reader, a Trojans Wire reader, dug up an interview that Pat Narduzzi did with SiriusXM, Roddy Jones on ACC Radio from early February. And in this interview, Narduzzi makes the claim that Notre Dame tried to recruit Kenny Pickett in the transfer portal. Now, it does not matter to me, and it shouldn't matter to anyone, whether or not that claim that Notre Dame tried to recruit Kenny Pickett is true. That's not germane. What is germane is that Narduzzi made the claim. So if you make the claim that Notre Dame, under Brian Kelly, tried to recruit Kenny Pickett in the transfer portal, then that means that Brian Kelly should be held responsible in the same way that Narduzzi claims that Lincoln Riley tampered with Jordan Addison. All right. So I'm not litigating whether Narduzzi's claim is true. That's not the point. It's that if you go down that road and you say that this other program tried to recruit one of your star players, then the head coach has to be responsible. But Narduzzi did not hold Brian Kelly responsible in this interview from ACC Radio a couple months ago, and he is holding Lincoln Riley responsible. So that is plainly inconsistent. It's plainly hypocritical, and it verifies all the claims that USC fans and insiders are making that Lincoln Riley is being held to a unique standard that is not being equally applied to other college football coaches. That's a fact, Jack.
So
I mean, you can tell I'm pretty riled up about it.
You are riled up about this, and I want to take this to a next depth of understanding for me, because maybe I missed something here. Pat Narduzzi called out Lincoln Riley, or at least said that Jordan Addison was being tampered by, I remember hearing a comment, 12 different coaches, at least a dozen coaches. So Lincoln Riley would be included in that. I am not aware of him naming Lincoln Riley by name. Did he, in fact, do that? Pat Narduzzi?
Well, I mean, reportedly, he talked to Lincoln Riley and expressed his extreme displeasure about the Jordan Addison incident and what he felt was tampering, or at least could have been tampering. So in terms of naming Riley in a public statement, I don't know, but directly contacting Lincoln Riley and being angry at him, like, it is known that Pat Narduzzi is angry at Lincoln Riley, but he's apparently was not angry at Brian Kelly for what he claims was an attempt to recruit Kenny Pickett in the transfer portal. So it's clearly that Narduzzi is not playing with the same set of standards. And let's draw the distinction even more. Like, Brian Kelly left Notre Dame for LSU. So like Lincoln Riley, he made a very unconventional move, ruffled a lot of feathers. Is not everybody's favorite coach. So even then, there's still a distinction between the way Brian Kelly's being treated and Lincoln Riley's being treated. I mean, you can you could perhaps look at Lincoln Riley compared to a truly universally beloved college football coach. Who's an example of a coach that everyone likes? Maybe Dave Aranda. I haven't heard anyone say anything bad about Dave Aranda. I think he's an upstanding guy, does things the right way. But Brian Kelly, he's a hard ass. He is not one of the most liked guys in the room, much like Lincoln Riley. And yet Pat Narduzzi has this split view in terms of holding one uniquely responsible in Jordan Addison and explicitly saying, oh, we don't hold Brian Kelly responsible for Kenny Pickett. Bizarre, and it certainly raises a lot of eyebrows here at USC.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go down this path, but some out there would even put Brian Kelly in the nefarious column, considering the role he may or may not have played or his neglect in the death of a Notre Dame support staff years and years ago.
Well, you know what? If we're going to deal with that, I just want to be on the record.
Yep.
I've always felt and will always feel that Jack Swarbrick, as the athletic director, should be held as more responsible than Kelly for what happened with Declan Sullivan. Because to me, it's not in a coach's job description to know when a piece of mechanical equipment should be used. That seems to be under the athletic director's purview, that it's a resource purchased by the athletic department. That should have been under Swarbrick's umbrella. Just wanted to duck that in case anybody was interested.
Good point. Good point. And for anybody that's unaware, you can look up any of those. The name had escaped me at the time, but I went down that path as well. So you can look it up and find out the details and make your own judgments.